Where to keep the rest of the guys, you'll get into the rest of the guys. Hospital, you get to the hospital and come back to it later. So.
I hit something last night.
What?
It was very easy. And, oh, it's too heavy. Yeah, I picked up some meds for one.
Yeah.
I backed out. Big F-350 was back in the and I picked the big bubble things. And I hit those, nothing in this car, popped up like that.
See, Bob and Diane just had an anniversary.
You okay then?
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It's a bad day for us.
just like
Well,
today or
There's
something.
that.
That's where it hurts.
Give or take.
Oh,
I haven't talked to them.
Well, you got a car wreck with that too.
I heard about that.
Oh, that's just something extra.
We don't have a
Well, you know,
I think.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Well, he needs to slow down. He gets so intense sometimes.
Well, I got to.
Are you planning?
I love
Okay.
I'll tell you what. If he
you get
can't
one
make,
on you, you don't live.
yeah, if he can't make him smile in a personal face or he can't make him smile.
yeah, so it's not a cold.
It's something he is.
We
Must
must
have
have
lost
lost.
one.
Oh my God, some of the stories.
World
make
is
me
nice.
laugh.
I can't even.
How about that?
And I'm keeping out, you know.
Parking lot is good still.
Jeez.
He's not doing so well.
Oh, no, they'll go.
Last time I saw him,
And then girl.
3 years ago, 4 years ago, Bob and Diane's boy.
Be the new solicitor responsible for all these changes.
Yeah, he's still John Cutter.
Yeah, must be.
His wife still just shaves her head. What's her name, Mary?
Yeah, she is a saint for the.
Oh my God.
I put some ads in more. Yeah, Bob was mad because Bob was trying to do a walker in a wheelchair.
Oh, yeah.
I said, that's what I said, if you need it, I'll put you a fancy wooden stick in my mouth or something. I said, better have to pass it with a block and hit me right in the shoulder, it hurts, so what you say? I'm gonna try to get him a walker for a month, and he talked into it, and you blew it off.
You want them now on, I will.
No, that's not good. No, I'm good.
You're gonna sign in.
He tells me.
No, I didn't hear
That's
it.
where
You
he
hear
rode
it?
over that culvert.
No, it did do that.
Fell over that
I
culvert.
was asleep already, it ain't that one.
Yeah, sure had.
I didn't notice
Froze
it was
that,
back.
caved in, went down about 10 feet with a horse.
Yeah.
He's glad to see you.
I'm so glad to see you. Hey, that money you requested?
Yeah, I found out it went to the floor.
Yeah, I threw it all on the floor. Every
Yeah,
dime.
it is.
He's a good guy.
Oh, yeah, part of the.
That's okay, I got a sister, she sent me money.
Christian City Road, is that how you got back here?
Yeah.
I was trying to get them not to send you money.
Well, you ain't related to me,
He's like a little
so.
baby rooster man.
See that
You
guy?
may be Polish, but you ain't related.
When we hate to like to see that guy beside me, that's my enforcer.
Huh?
That's my enforcer right there.
see
That's me enforcing it?
Yes.
You know what happens when somebody tries to enforce something.
Well, yeah.
You know,
because
blood.
he- if he can't do it,
I
I
bleed easily.
Huh?
Big
I
stealth
bleed
planes
easily.
out.
I'll fix your way. You have to take a shower for 3 days.
All over my new floor.
All over your new floor. Did you miss me?
I missed it. Did you bring me anything back from Arizona?
I got a rock for you out of Lake
She's
Michigan.
done well for himself.
How about Utah?
I didn't go to Utah.
You should have.
I went to North Dakota. Oh, yeah. Those roads are so straight, Stonington's gonna use it for an industrial flat. As an example. Two things that little Honda Civic of mine has never seen before.
Did you get your bumper fixed?
Oh, no, I still got a zip tie.
He said that. He tore his bumper off. Put it on his neck.
Hey,
He said that.
that's 100-mile-an-hour tape holding that bumper on. And I know because I was at 110 trying
I
to
told him
pass
don't
somebody.
tell anybody it's from Liberty Township, Pennsylvania. I was like, oh my God, zip tied. Well,
Hey, it works for me.
well, we're not hitting now, is it?
I don't know, you could have fooled me.
Everybody, the pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
we have roll call, please.
Mr. Barlow,
He's here.
Mr. Jackson.
Here.
Mr. Kyle.
Here.
All right, first on the agenda tonight, we have the Adams County TPO, the Long Range Transportation Plan with us. And she's gonna give us a presentation. What is your name again?
Laura Meter.
Laura?
Yes, and I am from the planning office. And our office serves as staff to ACTCO, which is the Adams County Transportation Planning Organization. And so we just wanted to take this opportunity. ACTCO is required by the federal government every 5 years to update the Long Range Transportation Plan. And the Long Range Transportation Plan is the overarching policy document that covers a 20-year planning horizon, and it identifies the needs and priorities of the county's transportation system. Now, this plan, it is required to specifically address state-owned and maintained facilities, so state roads, state bridges, but it does also address other issues, safety, intersections, bikes, bicycle and pedestrian facilities. So it really is just an overarching plan to address the transportation system in the county and what needs to occur to it to continue to support life here in Adams County as a functioning transportation system. So, so we're doing municipal outreach through the end of December. As part of the public engagement process, we did also develop a survey, which is, we have paper copies available, but primary means of taking that survey is online. And we did also develop a website where the public can access the stages of the plan, and there's also a public comment map where the public can identify a specific location in the county and then kind of make a comment about what needs to be improved at that particular location. So as part of the municipal outreach, we reached out just to say what's going on in the municipality, what needs to be fixed, what needs to be improved, how can we make the transportation sustained life here better in Liberty Township. So I did receive your the memo.
Yeah, the amendment, the $2 million memo?
Yes, I did receive
I'm
that.
glad you received that.
So that being said, so the Transportation Improvement Program, which is really the program that trickles down from the Long Range Transportation Plan, those state and federal funds are used only for state-owned and maintained.
I kind of figured that after I saw something.
Yes. So for those of you who have a packet, and if anybody doesn't, I do have a few. If anybody wants one.
The board all have it,
You have it? Okay.
but public, I didn't give it to the public.
Okay. Well, if anybody, does anybody want one?
I'll take them.
So we have a map there on the second page, and the table at the bottom provides details for the projects listed on the map. So obviously these are all state roads and local, state and local bridges that are maintained by PennDOT. So in saying that, with your list of projects, Mr. Barlow, we don't want you to think that, local needs are just totally not being considered.
Right.
So with,
But,
it's always a but there,
it's a big but.
but, no, I mean, actually, we've heard from every municipality that local needs, there's just not enough funding with the liquid fuels money to address all the local needs.
Right.
So the more that we can gather, a list of projects that we can gather, these needs on local facilities, we can advocate more toward PennDOT and say, listen, we understand that, the main infrastructure is the priority, but there are all these local needs that aren't being met.
And they're part of the infrastructure also.
Absolutely,
Because we
yeah.
tie into the state roads, and some of the state roads actually are in our township.
Yeah.
Um,
And in a, you know, I understand in an urban county, you know, if you go out toward Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, you know, we understand that there's, most of the traffic is traveling on state-owned facilities. But in rural counties, that's just not the case. I mean, there are wide open spaces that people need to access, and those are all through local facilities. Now, I also talked to Deb Messelman, and I think you've been in contact with her before. Have you ever done a project through that program, the dirt and gravel
The
road?
dirt and gravel road, yeah, we have applied for that kind of, some of that stuff, but it's not fell through for us, because they keep telling us they have a limited amount of funds, like the dirt and gravel road for Adams County this year is $100,000.
Right.
Well, we needed at least 54,000 of that 100,000. We gotta compete with 34 other townships. It's not really feasible for us to go through the process, because we're not gonna get it anyhow.
You don't think?
No.
Okay.
No, our projects are not as high on priorities like Mount Allen Township or some of the other townships.
Okay.
Theirs are much higher. The one project that I wanted to help with, they're not able to help with here, that would be that bridge over Friends Creek. It's going to be $500,000, which has been recommended to the township for the last 30 years that we bridge that. And the prices has continued to go up.
Has there ever been a bridge there?
No.
No,
Never
okay.
been a bridge there, but they've always made it very clear to us the responsibility and the liability that particular crossing is of the township, and we should address it. And we don't have resources to address it, we just
Right.
haven't. Especially when you're talking $500,000 for a bridge to go back to three houses. They are only, the one is only a full-time, and the rest are vacation properties.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's an issue, but while we're on the subject, because I did figure when I looked at that, I was like, you know what, they're talking more about state roads. So we could put in here for a turning lane at the intersection of 16 and Stillman Marker, would be sweet.
Yeah, that's right here, 81-253.
Richard.
Thanks, Rich.
Okay.
You betcha. No, I'm not running for supervisor.
So that would be the only state project that's on our road that definitely needs addressed. Well, actually, no, it's two of them. It's one at Stillman Marker, and the second one would be at 16 and Ranch Trail.
16 and Ranch.
Yes.
So is that Liberty Township or is that Carroll Valley there?
No, that's Liberty.
That's Liberty?
Yeah, those two intersections are Liberty. But they do, that Ranch Trail enters into Carroll Valley.
Carroll Valley at that point, okay. Because they actually brought up that intersection too.
Oh, did they?
They did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where our township lines are right there within 150 feet of each other.
Okay.
Right.
So
A
what
lot of
is,
accidents.
I would say, what's the
Lot.
issue there? Is it poor sight distance or the speeds that people are
The
traveling?
speed and no turn lane, and then we have, well, we ended up doing a no left turn on the Stillman Marker because of the potential. We've had rear end accidents there multiple times over the years. And there's no turn lane there, so there's nowhere to go. If you're sitting there, you're going to get your rear end, you're pushing the oncoming traffic. And the same way coming out, that turn coming out,
Yeah.
it's terrible.
Well, it's a very odd angle.
You have to
right?
actually go in the opposite lane just to make a right hand turn.
So there's alignment issues there too.
Yeah.
Well, he's talking about Ranch and 16, not Stillman Market.
I'll talk about Marker now.
Oh, are you? Okay,
Yeah.
shift gears on
I
that.
shift gears on it. Come here, Nathan.
Pretty
And
soon.
I think the other thing that you need to add to that is all the tractor-trailer traffic that is on Route 16. That's a big part of it too, because those guys can't stop on a dime. And
Right.
somebody decides to put their turn signal on at the last minute and stop in front of them, so.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know what the traffic count is. I have no idea, but that's a very busy road.
And they just did a traffic count, on that in 2016 because they did put a turn lane in at Orchard in 16 when we had that fatality.
Right.
So there is a current traffic count on that.
Yeah, I can take a look at that too to see what the traffic count is.
Yeah. Well, they did a traffic count also when we did the no left turn, because the state had to give.
So it's no left turn on to Steelman Marker when you're headed like toward Emmitsburg?
East,
Correct.
yes.
That's correct.
Okay.
If you guys find any extra money, we should all take it.
I will keep that in mind.
And I did send you a picture of the Forge crossing.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I didn't even realize that was back there. I grew up in Carroll Valley and had no idea that was back there.
We should have sent the flooded pictures. I mean,
Yeah.
rain.
I got
Those
it.
are bad, those.
I got it in my phone.
Raging, Judy Hogan even has some great video of that.
So I imagine when it floods, they can't even
They're trapped.
cross it.
No,
Yeah. Yeah.
emergency vehicles.
That's all, they're not getting, nobody's getting that.
Right.
Actually, I told the residents just the other day, matter of fact, she texted me again, I told her, I said, I'm gonna ask you on that 28-acre property you have, do you cut us a landing zone in there for the helicopter?
From that on.
Take that one.
I can have timber.
All right, are there any other concerns, even, you know, in the outside region, beyond the municipal boundaries that, you know, you'd like to provide feedback on? Essentially what we do is we compile a list of
Right.
projects, and the projects, they get prioritized, and then funding gets allocated, you know, based on the priorities that the county recognizes.
Well, our two biggest things is the forge and those people being trapped in there if they can't get out. The one family has 3 little boys in there, so they have a medical emergency. We have no way of getting in there, none. If that river, a creek is up. The other one is the Ridge Trail area, which is a private development that was done in the 60s, the late 60s and all. The problem we have in there is our fire and rescue and EMS had went in there and actually got swamped trying to respond to a cardiac arrest for one, which they got. Because the ambulance and the fire truck got stuck and they had the tow trucks in to pull them out and everything else. Those roads are not passable for emergency vehicles. Even our police department they bottom out their vehicles going in there. We can't find any funding at all to try to help those people at least bring those roads up to that you can go through them. That's a safety issue, and that's what my thing has been for the last 5 years on this. Is we have a potential liability, I think, because according to our second-class township code, our main objective is the safety and welfare of our residents. Well, when you got 65 homes, you can't get fire and rescue in. I think that's number one priority. We got an issue. And just kicking it down the road saying, well, you know, that's a private road, that doesn't let us off the hook for the safety of our residents.
Right.
I don't believe. If someone dies and wants to bring a lawsuit against us, I think we might have, and I don't know, Mr. Risco has been better than I, we may have, could be challenged, because I know the second class code states that very clearly, that our first priority is the safety and welfare of our residents. Not just the ones on private roads, but all of our residents.
So, obviously, I guess there's no plans for the township to ever take over those roads?
We can't take those roads over until they're brought up to state standards. I mean, they've had to be brought up to at least state standards in width, and the ditching on the sides and stuff like that. Right now, some of those roads going in there are only 8 feet wide, and they've got gullies in them 3 feet deep. That's crazy.
Yes, that is an interesting, my sister actually lives in that development.
Oh yeah? How'd she get her house, her fire insurance?
I have no idea. I can ask her. But, no idea.
Apparently nobody goes back and does books, because if I was
Well,
an insurance guy, I wouldn't write that policy.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's a prime example why they have HOAs these days to maintain facilities. But obviously that was done probably way before
Right.
those types of things.
And I don't
were
know
ever
what we
put
can
in
do on
practice.
a township level to make those people, at least adhere to some of the safety standards. I mean, apparently we have no authority to make them do nothing.
To do anything. Not even to make an agreement to maintain like a private drive or something.
Apparently not, right, Mr. Lister?
Nothing.
I wouldn't think so.
Interesting. Okay. gravel road program, because they're private roads,
They won't do
it
nothing. I
doesn't
already,
even apply.
yeah, I already talked to Deb and,
About
land
that.
conservation about that, so exactly.
Wow, okay, okay. All right, well, we will certainly, incorporate all of the feedback into the plan. And if any funding pops up, we'll certainly keep you in mind. That's just a never-ending battle, as there's, for state roads too, there's just
Right.
not enough funding to maintain our huge transportation system that we have, so. All right, anything else?
Guys? Bob?
Nope.
Thank you, Laura.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for the
Very much.
feedback, I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it too, thank you very much. All right, we will move on to public comment then. Our public comment conference line, if you're joining us tonight, is that on? Yes. Is 832-831-2424. The conference ID number is going to be 280672. Any public comment? We'll check the line.
Anybody there? Any
Thank
public
you.
comments? Guess not.
Supervisor comments.
Just a quick report. Wendy asked me to look into this tax claim bureau letter we got, which seemed to me at first to be very complicated. And we had to do affidavits and all that sort of stuff. And they sell delinquent taxes, the property for delinquent taxes. Actually, it was a result of some problems in some other counties, and they quickly threw together a list of bidders. And apparently some of those bidders in prior sales were not legit, they're not organized well. And so they're trying to preclude that happening again, so they sent out this letter asking for affidavits. But it sounded as though the affidavits had to be made by the township, attesting to the validity of the credentials of the people who are on the bidder list. That's not true. What they did was to send out a list of all the potential buyers, and I've got that. I think Wendy has several copies if you need them. What they would like us to do is peruse them, read them, and if we notice anybody that we see on there that should not be an eligible bidder, let them know. So that's the only, we don't have to do any affidavit thing or anything else. So for us, the net result is minimal. And it was done in a hurry, and there were a lot of other counties that objected to it. The way it's worded, it sounds horrendous.
Right.
But in actual fact, all you have to do is, I guess, Jess and Sherry probably ought to take a look at the list. And you guys, you see any crooks on there?
If I heard a tax sale.
I don't know anybody on that list that I
I
could
didn't know anybody either. It's like, okay.
But that's all we've been asked to do, is just look at it and let them know if there's any problems. That's
Okay.
my only comment.
You want to comment?
Yep.
Robbie?
Said it before, I'll say it again, permits, permits, permits. People are not getting permits. I see a lot of activity that you've been involved in, some, Mickey and so forth, so. Get a permit, or check with the office. Anybody there? Nobody's home. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, I don't have any public comments, I don't think, other than I would reiterate your things about the permits. If you don't get a permit, things coming for you, right, Clem? Yeah.
Well, it's not like they're that expensive.
All right, thank you, I appreciate it, guys. All right, we're going to go on to our minutes from September the 7th, 2021, the regular meeting. Everyone have an opportunity to review those minutes. And if so, can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Yep, so moved.
Second.
All in favor? About the MASA public meeting that we had with the airport, everyone have an opportunity to review those minutes.
Yes. And I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a comment about that?
Yeah.
The letter that we were sending, do you want to address that, where we were going through the support?
we can do that. After our meeting, when we talked with Manassas, is that how you say that, Manassas? Massa. They asked us for a letter of support for them moving forward in the grant process, and we did issue that letter a couple of days after our meeting. So it's been sent out to them. Mr. Lisco had an opportunity to review it. It's pretty much just saying we support you going forward with the grants, but you also have to abide by all permits and all requirements going forward with any building projects that may take place.
Yeah, I just need, let's go, do we need to vote on that letter or no?
Yeah, you should vote on it.
Oh, okay. I'll make a motion that we retroactively vote to send that letter to the airport.
I thought we already did.
I thought
We're
we did.
retroactively agreeing.
I'll second it.
All in
Thank you.
favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Alrighty, get the treasurer's report. Wendy, has everybody had an opportunity to go to Wendy's treasury report?
Yep.
Yes, I have. I'll
I
make
got
a
a
motion.
question.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
I got a question.
New Enterprise Stone, 471.21. What
Hold
stone
on,
we get from
hold
New-
on, hold on.
3 of 5.
Hold
That's the
on.
bottom.
Three what?
No, page 3 of 5.
Page 3 of 5,
Um,
3, 9, all right, what number now?
You're on, well, it's August. What number? No, put the-
831, 471.
Yeah, 471.21 to Enterprise Stone. Sent the check out end of August. So August we got something. Was that the blacktop pipe?
No.
Okay. Because there's another
I'm
one.
still not where you're at, where you at?
I don't have a page on here. 3
3
of
of
5.
5.
What's at the top of the page?
The third page.
Yeah.
is
Oh,
under
the third page of the profit and loss statement?
the- No,
Yeah,
of your
what are we on?
treasurer's report.
Oh yeah, we're on the treasure.
Oh, the actual treasurer's report.
Yeah. That's what they call for.
I only have 3 pages of my treasurer's report.
Page 3 of 5. Under Pliggett State, New Enterprise Stone Company,
Okay,
471.
here's the draft. The
Oh,
first
page
page.
3.
Page 2, page 3 of 5, there.
That's the minutes from last month.
Jeez,
Treasurer's report.
that was
That's
last.
not the treasurer's report, that's the
Not
minutes.
treasury.
Those are the minutes from last month, that's why
I was
I'm.
like, I'm sitting here
I'm looking at the
three, and
treasurer's
I
report.
was
Well,
like,
We
that
already
answered a
voted on
couple
that.
questions I had there.
hey, you're a month late.
But what are you talking about? This is the minutes from last month.
Ooh, I hate to hear that.
On the treasurer's report that you approved last month.
That's only been approved.
What are you talking about? That's what we have.
Now, where are we?
But after the minutes, then there's
October
something
5th.
called a treasurer's report.
October 5th.
We asked for approval of the minutes, and did we approve
We
it?
did do all
We
that,
already-
yes.
That is the
No.
minutes.
Actually,
why I had
Mr.
some
Kybal,
questions.
you approved it just now when you voted to approve the minutes.
Okay, now, does everybody have an opportunity to look at the treasurer's report? This is this one right here.
I have. I think it was the right one.
Do I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, everybody have an opportunity to review the profit and losses?
That's all included with the treasurer's.
That's all part of it. All right, we're gonna move on to payroll. Invoices. We already did the invoices. I have a motion to pay their invoices.
I'll make a motion, we approve the invoices as presented.
Okay, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, payroll. Everyone have an opportunity to review the payroll.
Both of them or just one?
Yeah.
With the
We're
two-
gonna do
two
829 first, and
Okay.
That's okay, well, let Mr. Kybal's process.
Since you did it,
I'll make a motion to approve that.
second.
all in favor? Thank you. All right, Bob, you're up next, 912. Do you approve the
No,
payroll?
yeah, I approve, I make a motion to approve the payroll process.
Thank you.
And I'll second it.
Thank you.
All in favor? Thank you.
Aye.
Okay, we got through that process. All right, now we're gonna go to our police report.
Police report
Sherry, you're up.
for September 2021. We worked 288 hours, put 1,289 miles on the cars, answered 17 911 calls, We had 2 misdemeanor arrests. They were for drugs by Officer Ammerman. He answered seven calls were answered by Pennsylvania State Police. We wrote 35 traffic citations, 6 warnings, 2 faulty equipments, and 4 non-traffic citations in Liberty. Gas, I cannot tell you how many gallons we used because half the time the gas
Meter broke.
meter didn't work.
We're gonna address that too.
We're talking about that.
Yeah, we worked 25 hours in Freedom, wrote 27 citations out there and 8 warnings. We answered no 911 calls out there. Some of the highlights, we're using both NRADs now. We have 1 in each car, so the new one's in use. As I said, Officer Ammerman made 2 drug arrests. That was a result of a traffic stop for, I think it was for speeding. I was personally busy in September with 3 different audits for the state system for my JNet and cleaning. All those went well. I'm still dealing with 1, but that's not really my fault. I'll be going to the Highland Township meeting October the 12th to discuss possible police coverage for them, probably starting in 2022. There will be a drug take-back on October the 23rd over at Carroll Valley's Borough Building from, I believe it's 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And Officer Rusin will be over there to take part in that. And I'll be going to the Fairfield Fire Department on October the 10th for their open house. They're invited us over there. And I'm not positive because I haven't been able to get in touch with him. We've been playing phone tag, but I think that an officer is invited on Halloween to go to Greenmount Fire Hall over in Freedom Township to participate in trick or treat over there. So if that's the case, I'll make sure we have somebody over there for that, probably me. I can dress up to the top.
Chief, I have a question. Did we ever announce anything about that we removed the drug box?
Oh, we did not.
Because actually someone came today to drop off something.
Okay,
So probably
yeah,
not.
we did remove our drug box out here because we weren't really getting anything in it. Carroll Valley now has one over at their borough building. So, we removed ours from here and we'll just instruct people to drop that off over their, drug box in their borough building or, encourage people to come for the drug take back that we have over there twice a year.
Thank you.
Yep.
And can you, put that on our webpage, that the drop off is now Carroll Valley instead of here?
Yes.
Thank you. Anything else to,
I think that's all I can think of right now.
you make that call today for the, vehicle accident on 15 in Freedom Township?
No, I didn't get that. I'm gonna get calls before we're out over working over there.
Well,
Got the one on Glad Hill Road though.
did you hear the call that went out for, County Trail for the fall subject? Okay. Good one.
Was that, where was that?
Track road in, Kelly.
When was that?
About 2:35.
They should have given that to me. I'll have to check that.
That was one I didn't get any response.
No, they didn't give it to me.
I had my radio, so I didn't know that.
No, the only one I got today was the accident up on Glad Hill Road.
All right, we'll move on to the zoning then. Right now, I have the zoning report in front of me. We have $630 in permits that were issued throughout the township. And we had 2 driveway permits for a total of $695 in permits for the month of September. All right, while we're on zoning, we got some other things here we want to get to. So, we have considered an application, zoning hearing board resignation. Have Bart, at the beginning of the year, I talked to Bart when we were putting together our zoning hearing board, and he graciously decided he would stay on as long as his health was able to allow him to do so. He has sent us a resignation letter effective yesterday, that his health he has second health problems and he needs to resign from the board effective immediately. So, I'll make a motion that we accept Bart's resignation from the board of zoning hearing board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
While we're on that subject, we do have coming up an application for a zoning hearing that is in progress now. We have to have a 3-member board for this hearing. So yesterday, I spent a long time on the telephone, even into the hour last night, and talked to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people to see if they would be interested in the zoning hearing board. 2 of the residents said they would, if no one else would stand up and take the position. And I was like, well, okay. So anyhow, I finally got a hold. One fellow said he would take it as long as he would take it and see how it went for the remaining of Bart's term, which we haven't determined. Do you know what his term was? Is that for a
I
year?
have a list over there, I need to go over that with, I think it's this year, but I wanna verify.
I think it is.
Yeah,
I
he just
wanna
came
verify
out
that.
this year,
Well, he's been on the zoning hearing board for a long time, but I don't know if he was reappointed this
We
year.
keep reappointing him, so I'm not sure where he
Yeah.
is just yet.
Yeah, because I say, I was reading the zoning hearing board stipulations, and it says that, it says in here that it's an annual position. It's reenacted and amended in the zoning ordinance and procedures. If I'm reading this correctly, it was an annual thing. But anyhow, I have a candidate. I'm gonna make a recommendation like that we place him on the zoning hearing board to replace Bart, and if he decides that didn't work out for him at a later date, he'll let us know. So Jim Holler, who lives out here on Crum Road, said yes, that he would take the position for the zoning hearing board, and he hopes that it didn't turn into a monthly thing. So I'm making a motion to replace Jim Holler on the zoning hearing board, effective immediately. Second.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll let Jim know that he is it. I appreciate that. Thank you, and make sure that Bart knows we appreciate all the years that he's served in the board too. And, hope everything gets
I
well.
think he was on the planning commission 100 years before he was on.
Right.
100 years.
Yeah.
I mean, he is gonna be 87 in 2 weeks, so.
He has
It's
10
been a
years.
while. That's something. All right, the second thing we have is conformance to the zoning ordinance discussion with PMC. But we're here to talk to us about non-conformance to the zoning ordinance. I spoke with you yesterday about that. You want to enlighten us as a board on what we are discussing?
A non-conformance to the zoning ordinance is a structure or land use that was in place prior to the existence of the current zoning ordinance.
Okay.
Theoretically, they're documented at the time that non-conformance is discovered or when the ordinance is passed. Most municipal ordinances give you a time limit to declare that you've got a non-conformance on your property.
Right.
If they don't, then a lot of ordinances will have provisions in there to investigate and evaluate that non-conformance, whether it's valid or not. That oftentimes what happens with sometimes with uses, sometimes with signs, sometimes with the structures themselves, non-conformance might not be discovered for years. When it's discovered, then it's incumbent upon the municipality to figure out whether it was a pre-existing non-conformance or something that occurred without the zoning approval, or illegally doing whatever it is that it's doing. One thing that I was hoping I could talk to you about tonight would be to have some kind of
understanding with the municipality that when a non-conformance is discovered, for us to have a procedure to be able to evaluate that and see whether it is a valid non-conformance or not.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of municipalities I work for, we use an application for a certificate of non-conformance. We obtain information on whatever the project is, and if we can decide it is an existing non-conformance, we would grant that certificate of non-conformance or recognize it as being a non-conformity. If we can't, then we would place that in front of the zoning hearing board and have a public hearing for the person or the project to either gain approval or be denied approval.
Okay.
That gives them an opportunity to enter into the court system, or the municipality for that matter, to enter into the court system if it needs to go any further than that. When your last zoning ordinance was enacted, I don't know who it was, somebody in the township, presumably the zoning officer at the time, apparently went around and made a list of non-conformities that he found, but it doesn't include everything that could possibly exist within the municipality. So we're still faced with that potential. And in particular, the one that comes up immediately is a collection of campers at the hang glider airport, right up the road here. We believe it's a non-conformity, but we don't have a way to document it yet. So we'd like to collect that information and then either make a determination or bring it in front of the zoning hearing board if we're not able to determine.
Is that this application that we have before us tonight?
Yeah, my staff sent that out as a proposal to you guys. It's basically what we use in other municipalities where we do similar work. It collects the basic information and it gives you, the applicant, a list of things that we need, a detailed letter that describes what the nonconformity is. And the use at present, we ask for a site plan, a parcel map that shows who the property belongs to and the adjoining properties, just as if you were doing something for a zoning hearing. A deed that proves whoever's claiming this nonconformance actually owns the property, and then a fee and any other information that might be peculiar to that particular project. It gives us a false swearing statement, and it collects information on the applicant and the owner of the property, the site information.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Lynn on that?
Yeah, I do. Why is it necessary to have a certificate? What happens right now if there's somebody who's non-conforming? I'm away up here tonight. I counted 10 properties that have non-conformance at the present time. They're all driveway, and none of them are in conformance with our current regulation. And the reason I'm bringing it up is no big deal. I don't mind filling out a form, but I look over at our neighboring municipality, initials are Carroll Valley, and they have a regular Gestapo type witch hunt going on, and I don't know that personally, but that's the reputation they have. They got a guy out there with a stick measuring the height of the leaves on trees. They've got their police watching for exits from the taverns, and it's, in my opinion, that's not the kind of township we want to have here. And I'm concerned that if we have a form and try to enforce it, we're going to have more police type activity, and it will take this township from what it is right now, a very pleasant place to live, with a few driveways that don't conform, and turn it into something a little more city-like. And I'm concerned about that, because for one thing, our taxes here are 1/3 of what they are over there. Not that that has any direct relationship, but when one of your predecessors, Darren Katz, when he started working, I think you know Darren, don't you?
I do.
Anyway, he and I sat down and talked that over. And what we didn't want to do was to go out and start looking for non-conforming problems, because there are hundreds of them, and many of them are kind of gray area things, like what's a junkyard, what's a farm, and right on down to the very clearly understood one, what's a driveway, and what do you have to have a culvert, do you have to have a pay? And what I do not want to like to see encouraged a lot of activities that have to do with conformance of the driveway. Fred Crum, he hates me.
He did. You don't hate nobody.
That's why I used to belong in the past. But, you know, hypothetically, I guess, but in actual practice, he was pissed off at me because my wife said something that he didn't like. Now, my driveway's not in conformance, so he could file a certificate and drag this whole thing up for review and spend a lot of township time and his money and my money. And so I'm concerned that if we make it formalized with a certificate, we're going to encourage more of that type of thing. And so that's my reaction to it. I don't have an alternative. I mean, I can't say that we ignore non-conforming problems.
Well, I certainly appreciate your thoughts and your position. Your zoning ordinance, Article 5, talks about a nonconformity and the opportunity to continue that nonconformity in Section 500. It says, except as otherwise provided in this section, any use, building, or structure existing at the time of enactment of this ordinance may be continued, even though it is not in conformity with the regulations specific to this ordinance. It doesn't say anything about driveways or culvert pipes or anything like that. It talks about buildings or structures or use existing at the time of the enactment of the ordinance.
So it only applies to buildings and structures and not driveways?
The discussion of nonconformity, yes. It talks about abandonment, extension of the nonconformity, expansion of the nonconformity, and so on.
Junk in a yard, is that nonconformity? Is that included? That's not a building or a structure.
There's a difference between junk in a yard and somebody that's actually operating what you would define as a junkyard under your junkyard.
So that's in the eyes of the beholder. We have.
Excuse me for interrupting.
Yes.
But junkyard ordinance, if you have a separate junkyard ordinance.
I'm not.
If the township does, and I believe we do.
We do.
You have to, there's no non-conforming for a junkyard.
I'm talking about an informal junkyard then, like a resident who's got junk piled all like down on the corner there, Track Road. That was debris all over the place. It wasn't a junkyard. It was a neglected home with an accumulation of junk.
Well, that's a different issue though than non-conforming use.
Non-conforming
use only applies to zoning matters.
Only the structures.
Well, not only the structures, it could be a non-conforming use. For example, if you're operating a business in a residential zone, you've had that business there for 100 years or 75 years. So it's not just the structure, it could also be the use of the property.
Well, it seems to me that I'm concerned for the reasons I just stated. That I just don't want to turn this township into a police state. And if this is heading us in that direction, I'm not happy about that. But as I say, I don't have an alternative.
I don't see it as any more onerous than the existing ordinance. It's actually an opportunity to clean the ordinance up.
Then why do we need the certificate?
We have a nonconformity that we're trying to deal with right now. It's an unknown origination of a campground at the Glider Airport. We'd like to be able to collect that information and make an evaluation whether it's a non-conforming use or not, whether it's in compliance with the zoning ordinance.
I'm not concerned about that at all. It's a separate issue, and it's being handled in the way we've always handled that sort of thing.
And that's why we're here.
But now you're initiating a new form to be used.
Actually, it's my recommendation to you, the board, that you actually look at the non-conformity language in your ordinance and perhaps modify it so that it's more protective of the township, that there's an ability for the township to actually look at these non-conformities and deal with them so that they not only protect the township, but protect the person that had that business in the residential district for the last 75 years.
I think, Mr. Jackson, I think what Mr. Mulata wants is some sort of record for the nonconformity. So 30 years from now, when probably none of us are on this board, and the question comes up with regards to the campers at the airport, they can then say, hey, I've got a certificate of nonconformity that was issued by PMCA back in 2021, so we're okay, rather than someone saying, well, you just started those campers 5 years ago, you just started them 10 years ago, and they can say, no, we've got, I actually think it's, to be honest with you, it's more to protect the residents than the township, because if they don't have that certificate of conformity, then they're gonna have to prove that it's a non-conforming use, that they were in existence at the time that regulation was enacted. And I think, I think that, you know,
I don't object to that, in that case of the airport, the campers, there's a procedure that should be followed and is being followed. I'm talking about hundreds of other gray area issues, from what Clem said, those don't apply. It doesn't apply to those.
well,
You're not gonna get out and measure the height of trees, that's exempt, you don't do that.
no, I think this came up kind of as part of when Massa was in here. I think there was a mention of campers. I don't think Mr. Millat or anyone from PMCA went out and said, hey, there's campers here.
There wasn't count searching at all.
Yeah, I think it just
It
came
was
up
brought up
during the meeting, so.
well, you know, we have, and
Well, I don't have any objection at all to the campground subject. And I letter a non-conformance or variance or whatever it is entirely appropriate, if that's the way it comes out. But I'm talking about driveways, and you say now they're exempt.
No, they're not, they're regulated in a different manner.
no driveway ordinance.
Are you
They're regulated to the driveway ordinance.
Are you gonna recommend certificates of non-conformance on driveways?
No, I'm strictly concerned with the
The
zoning.
ones prior to the ordinance, we can't go back, they're grandfathered, we can't do nothing about it. The ones that going forward, any driveway that application comes in now will have to comply with the driveway ordinance, period.
Oh, that's understood.
And that's how it is.
I'm talking about the ones that were in long before the ordinance.
Well, we have to go back 100 years,
Yeah, you're right.
the one that doing that.
Your driveway and mine. Okay, well, I'm not, I don't, as I said, I don't have a better idea. I just don't wanna do what I said might happen to change.
And it's not only the airport, I wanna make clear that it's not just the airport. The airport brought up about their 14 campers or whatever they had, it's like, wow, we have campgrounds, you can't have a campground, that's it, you can't have a campground. But we have two campers sitting right down here, in the curve, which I just saw some people there yesterday in both of those campers. I don't know what they're doing, but they have electric run through them and everything else. And they're sitting right alongside the road. We specifically done this when Darren was here. We set up this campground ordinance because our planning board took a lot of time to look up the campground ordinance and implement the campground ordinance and bring it to the township supervisors. There was one camper that got passed because we didn't have an ordinance in place. That's why the ordinance was brought up, is because if you don't have an ordinance, if they want to put a camper in there, we can't stop it. So we had to come up with a campground ordinance. Now that guy, he got a pass because he got in under the radar, so we can't go back and give him a non-conforming seat because he got it done. But going forward, we have other campers in the area too. Those campers and one at the airport are only a few. I can tell you right now where I know another couple is living in a camper. But I'm not trying to go around and have him police everybody in the neighborhood. I mean, because Bobby knows who I'm talking about too. And then I also know where two other campers are setting back one of our lanes, Shawnee lanes, that did get no permits or nothing, and they put a driveway pad in and everything, and they were approached and said, listen, you can't camp in here.
But the whole situation isn't about campers, it's about
No,
the zoning
It's
ordinance.
the zoning, people are not following the zoning ordinance, and if we're not gonna comply with our zoning ordinance, then we don't need to have a zoning ordinance. And that's the bottom line. We have so many people just going out here doing whatever the hell they want. We had some people moving here from New Jersey last week or 2 weeks ago. We just got their head going, and these people, guess what they want to do? Right across the street from some people's house that has a nice house, they want to cut in a driveway, and they already started, and cut all the trees down, put themselves a campsite to come down from New Jersey. Now, what if you were that guy that lived right across the street in that $300,000 home, you're looking out your window, and there's a camper thing? You can't do that. That's what I told her. You can't do that. It's bottom line. If we don't, if we let one slide, we're gonna let them all slide, Bob.
I'm not arguing about encouraging sliding, and you're absolutely right on every example that you gave. I'm just wondering about a change to require a certificate.
Well, I believe Clem is making a recommendation to the board to consider this, and I don't see it's a bad thing to have a documentation, as Mr. Lisco has said. We need to have documentation. We have people that are doing things that are non-conforming. If they go through the proper channels and they get approval to do that, they get the certificate.
Well, I didn't want to make a mountain out of a molehill. I meant to talk to you about it earlier, a week ago, about the use of a form like that, and I wanted to make sure it got discussed and to see what applied and what didn't apply, because it's not just about campers, it's about the zoning ordinance.
That's right.
And everything in the zoning ordinance, as far as I understand it.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you brought up is valid, that I have argued for years. Again, we'll go back to Risk Trail. You know, there was a point in time when this board was split. That's why we came up with the driveway ordinance, and we rewrote it. And you know that I was very much in the rewriting the driveway ordinance and doing that whole thing. Because the driveway ordinance only, at one point in time, only addressed driveways that touch township roads. So you could live on these private lanes, and you had a piece of pipe this big for a driveway, culvert pipe, and it was washing out the whole entire road. Well, how can we make you, because you decided to build your house along Topper, you gotta pay and have a driveway permit. Just because you built your house over in Ridge Trail, you don't have to. Bullshit. You gotta have a building permit, do you not? Well, if you gotta have a building permit, you gotta have a driveway. If you gotta have a driveway, you gotta comply with the same exact driveway permit as everybody else. And that's when we had a problem. And that's why we redone the driveway ordinance, because we had all that crap over in Risk, and people having 2-inch PVC pipes, 5 or 6 of them in a driveway, and calling it a pipe. I went, seriously? That ain't a pipe.
You're right.
You know, so we have a lot of non-conforming things that we need to address in our township. Just like this gray water thing. I can drive around this township right now and I can show you a lot of places, even new homes, that are shooting water out of the township illegally, because under our stormwater management, it says you cannot empty water out of your property onto a township road. Well, some people will tell you this, well, I've had that there for 20 years. Well, guess what? I'm telling you right now, stormwater management says you're not allowed to do that, period. And then MS4 comes back and says townships need to collect their water and make sure it goes to a distribution center. So if you're dumping water on the township, then we gotta collect it. Well, you know, we got a problem that way. I'm not gonna beat that no more, so that's cool.
Anyway, I understand what you're saying, I agree with it. I was just questioning the use of a certificate. So that it didn't go haywire, and we will certainly try using it. If it goes haywire, I guess we'll be talking about it again.
Yeah. I say we give anything a shot at least once.
I think we need documentation to move forward on anything with non-conformance. I think this could be part of the procedure.
Okay.
Take care of that personally.
Okay, end of sermon.
Okay. So, since that been done, we have this form in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna make a motion that we adopt this form and try to implement it in our township, and give our zoning, officer the authority to, write these forms up and place them in the file for the township. Do you know what the amount, do you have an amount? Okay, what's the fee? Is that gonna be on?
That's gonna be on the fee schedule.
All right,
Yeah,
yeah.
they did recommend, was it 1 hour or 2 hours? What's the fee schedule?
Yeah, I'm saying, we'll get to that, it's in here.
It was recommended 2 hours, so it's $90.
Okay. All right, I'll make a motion that we adopt this form.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the next thing we have here is the Camden permit application.
That is something I put together with Mr. Lisco, and he reviewed it.
Yes.
And I did talk to you
gonna say who's gonna have to review it, and approve it, it's gonna have to be the township. If we're gonna adopt this policy and require people to get a permit to camp in the township, according to our ordinance, which our ordinance says you have to notify the township to do that. So this is the way to notify it.
Right, would that just go through the board of supervisors, or would it need, any, person, in the township, or would it need to go to zoning or the SEO? That was my question, because that will reflect on how much the fee would need to.
Well, down here in the municipal use part, it has right on here that the SEO is required to sign off on it.
Okay, so we would have to, include, so the fee will need to be adjusted on the fee schedule to reflect that.
Yeah, if we're requiring SEO to, sign off on it, yeah.
Is
Because
that
someone has
something,
to,
is that something we feel we need to do?
well, the board,
Or is it, I don't know, that's up for discussion.
What does it
It's a
say the
draft.
SEO needs to sign off it, or does it say,
meets SEO requirement.
It just says
Then it has
it
signature
means, you
of
can,
officer and
yeah,
title.
it doesn't,
yeah, but it says meets SEO requirements. I think the applicant has to
they're gonna
state their
describe.
yes or no. And then,
How are we gonna do that, John? Because you,
well, they'd have to get with the SEO and have the SEO. I think the burden is on the applicant to get with the SEO.
well, this box right here says municipal use.
Well, this is
Yeah.
all a draft, so if I need to move anything around, let me know. I was under the impression that we were going to confirm from whatever they described under their waste disposal that it was in line with that. But if that's something we need the SEO to, or we can have the SEO draw up something, a set of requirements ahead of time, perhaps?
I think that we're not, are we actually dealing with sewage disposal, or are we dealing with, what are we dealing with?
That's what I was
What is your main concern? I don't know. I just drafted this. Are we concerned with sewage disposal? Because this is some people camping for more than 3 days and it's more than 10 people. Wouldn't we want them to require them to get porta potties or something, or show some way to, what are
Oh,
they
yeah.
doing?
They gotta do something, because I think that came up when we were talking to the guys at the airport too about, because I asked the question, what are you doing when you got all those 14 campers down there? And you
Where's
got-
everybody going to the
Yeah,
bathroom?
that's exactly what I asked, and I said,
I
what are
mean,
you doing?
if you have 10 people for more than 3 days, somebody's gonna use the bathroom somewhere.
Well, maybe you want the SEO to look at it then and get his approval.
And
But
then
I think
you-
that would have to be reflected in the
That would
fees.
definitely would change the fee.
Yeah.
Judy?
I don't have my ordinance book with me, but my understanding is that we discussed this at length when we developed the ordinance, and the SEO officer was there, the engineer was there, and it's a concern about gray water and
Yes.
sewerage, and that, it's definitely a concern for the township that we don't let that dumped on any land that's been camped on.
I do remember that being part of the subject matter.
Well, then we'll have to have a fee. We have
That's what
to
I'm
have-
saying, if they have to review it, or, my concern, and it's just me as a person, what is the cost of a permit then? It's gonna cost a couple $100. Otherwise, an alternative would be for the SEO to devise a checklist, a one-time checklist of these requirements must be met. You must do these things. For more than so many people have this many porta potties. And if it's a checklist and they sign off that they're agreeing to do that, we wouldn't need the SEO to review every application. So I'm offering an alternative to keep the cost of a permit down. But of course, that's up to the board of what you want to do. I don't know what normal camping permit fees are. Sorry, I made this worse.
There can't be more than 5 campers in any, 1 acre lot too.
But is that the campground or the camping?
This is for campgrounds.
Right, so the camping ordinance is a little different.
Is that,
It's
that is
temporary.
standalone ordinance?
Yes, a camping is completely
I won't
separate.
have to do this one. All right, well, I guess we're gonna have to probably table this until our SEO officer gets
So
the
do
chance
you
to.
want me to get with them and ask them if they can make a recommendation on how if they would be okay with putting Mr. Lisco, how do you feel about that?
No, I don't have a problem with
If
their,
they gave a checklist added to that where the person would comply with those things, oh, we have more than 10 people, we must use 2 porta potties or whatever.
I don't have a problem with that, but you should check with the SEO.
Or if they feel like they need to review every single individual application and charge $200 and say this complies. Because I feel personally that that's excessive to charge.
Well, I'm saying, I know, not only your SEO, but DEP is very strict on this.
I can check with the DEP first, if
Yeah,
that's
'cause I
a
know,
cheaper option anyway.
A friend of mine, he uses raw sewage on his fields.
Okay,
Now, he has to get, an inspection done every 3 months, and then he has, when he goes to dump this raw sewage, he has to have a permit to do it. And then you can't be on the field for 60 days afterwards. So, I don't know what the process is going to be. That's why we don't have campgrounds in Township.
all right, let me work on this a little bit more. I'll check with the DEP and the SEO because I would like the application to be able to cover that so that we don't have to charge excessive fees at the board.
All right, so we'll table this, this permit for the
Do
campground.
we need a motion to table? Or-
I'm making a motion to
I
table.
don't know if we need one, I'm just asking.
I'm making a motion to table. I have a second.
Thank you.
Ah, you got it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, now we're gonna go to the road department, okay. Well, the road department this past month, of course, we've had a busy month. We drove a total of, let me see, 809,007 miles in the township. We used 76.5 gallons of unleaded gas, 48.6 gallons of off-road diesel, and on-road diesel we didn't use any this past month. We did get completed the, I just had to bring from McLaughlin. The base repair on McLaughlin, that is done. We started doing the tree canopy Monday in Hamilton Bend. Right now we're in Hamilton Bend, we're on the Mount Carmel Road, no, Mount Hope Road. And after 2 weeks of being in Hamilton Bend, we could be coming into Liberty Township. We did have a lot of requests for this millings that we have back here, and we got a lot of requests for it. I don't have enough back here to give everybody requested. So I did put out in the newsletter the other day, it just came out yesterday actually. They will have to take and put people on the list, a callback list as stuff comes available, we can call them and see if they still want it. But right now, we have 2 guys that have already been promised what we have left. So we'll be delivering that to them once we get done with some of the other road projects. One of the big issues we had this past month was Friends Creek. Friends Creek had 2 major floodings back to back. The first week, we lost the entire forge area. It took 65 tons of stone to rebuild and reshape the road. And it took us, I had a breakdown in it, I don't know what it is anymore. It was about $2,000 in man hours and labor to repair that road and put it back together. And then the very next week, we had another torrential downpour and raised the water up out of the banks again, and now our banks have widened over there in that area. It's causing, I said again, it's causing a real problem with our residents. The 2 residents that live there full time were trapped for 3 days the first time and trapped for 2 days the last time. So there's no way in and no way out. She did text me today, and I told her that she should probably go to Carroll Valley to their next board meeting and talk with Carroll Valley, because there is a lot that adjoins their lot in the Carroll Valley section that is the Carroll Valley lot. So they are interested in maybe purchasing that lot. I believe that might be the safest and the best way for them to have an access road in and out of there, because again, it's a safety issue when you have residents trapped on the other side of a raging creek bed or river, whatever you wanna call it, and if you have an emergency, you can't get them out, you just can't get them out. And again, the fuel trucks going across that road to take fuel back there to those residents. God forbid anything ever happens, because if it does, this township's gonna pay a lot of cleanup to Chesapeake Bay, I guarantee you. Someone gets killed trying to cross that, and Sherry will contest it. We had a genius in our neighborhood, that's how I'm gonna put it.
Yep.
Decided to let their kids try to body surf on surfboards in that high water. That's right.
They were skim boards.
Skim boards,
So
skim,
they're right on
it's
the
like, you
edge.
gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, trying to skim right
We had
there.
water that took a camper and smashed it up against a tree in a trailer, that they were gonna let their kids go body surfing in that. They're so geniuses, just geniuses. But anyhow, that's the liability that we were looking at as a township. Again, as I said to the Adams County Transportation, it's $500,000 to bridge that thing. We ain't gonna do it, we'll never bridge that thing, we just don't have money. But we do have to be mindful that we have a situation that can be potentially very detrimental to the township and the finances of the township if we ever have an issue. So, anyhow, again, we had other trees come down in the township that we had to address. I think I had 3 call-outs in the month of September for tree removals after hours. So hopefully when we get to McLaughlin and Bullfrog, we'll take care of some of these issues with the trees. As I promised you guys, I went and got some other quotes about the McLaughlin Road project. The next year, we had gotten a quote for about $258,000 to total reclaim, tar and chip, the lower half of McLaughlin, which I think was ridiculous. So anyhow, I reached out to some other contractors and talked to some other townships with some other options. One of the options is that we can bid out the material separate from the labor. And that way we don't have to co-star it, we don't have to pay the taxes on it if we bid it out the other direction. Plus, we don't have to do a total reclaim, we can do actually what we, a overlay, a 2-inch, my recommendation is gonna be a 2-inch overlay on the upper part of McLaughlin. You have that in front of you, it's about 790 tons of blacktop. At a price of $51.25 a ton. That's 19 millimeter. The price for the asphalt is $40,487.50, and the labor cost will be $15,000. That's a price tag of $55,487.50. The other price I had just to do the upper part was $208,000. That's a hell of a significant price difference. The lower half of McLaughlin, instead of tar and chip, as I said before, we need to get away from tar and chipping. That's nothing but throwing some gravel down and throwing some oil on top of it, and in 2 years you're going to do it again. And you spend $30,000. So the lower half of McLaughlin, I'm going to recommend to the board, you should go through the budget process to put a 1.5-inch overlay of 9.5. And the cost of, that's 650 tons, and the cost is $57.95 a ton. Comes to, with labor, is $52,667.50. If we go this direction, we can also do Sanders Road, same exact thing, 9.5 overlay, 1.5 inches, for $44,009.90, for a total of $152,245 versus $250,000 to do it the other way.
When you say 1.5 inches, are you talking compacted?
Compacted, that's correct. All of this is compacted. 2-inch compacted and 1.5-inch compacted. Then we won't really have to mess with these 3 roads probably 15 to 20 years. All we have to do is just do maintenance on them. Because like I said, I had the state rep out, the state rep was like, you really don't need to reclaim this road, you got a good base on the road, you can just overlay it, and that's what I'm going to recommend for the board, is for us to overlay. So as you go through your budget process, keep these numbers in mind. The grand total number, like I said, is 152,245. That's what we're going to shoot for the road projects for 2022. Now, these are just the major road repairs. This is not counting the other stuff we have to maintain on a yearly basis on the roads, but this is our projects for the roads. Anybody have any questions on that? No?
Trying to absorb it.
But you can absorb it because we're not voting on this tonight anyhow.
Okay. Well, yeah, I would like to talk about it a little bit more, just so I understand what you're proposing, and what the other way is.
The other way is to totally tear the road up, put it back down.
Well, that's pretty much what this is, isn't it?
No. This
You
here is
put this on top of it.
laying on top of the existing road.
What's the quality difference in terms of life of the road?
It's 20 year.
20 year
Yeah.
for this way? What's
20 years, same way.
What's it the other way?
Other way too.
Yeah.
The only other way is we're
Why would we pay $250,000 if we can get 152 and do the same thing?
That's a
That's
good.
why he's been doing some
That's
investigating.
exactly right.
How does this compare with what we did at Glad Hill?
This is what we did. It's exactly what we did with Glad Hill. Exactly what we did with Glad Hill. We overlaid Glad Hill. The only problem we have with Glad Hill, which you were very well aware of, is it didn't tap it.
Yeah.
This would be tapped. I guarantee you. This would be tapped. So
Well, I
that's
don't see
exactly
the
what
point
it
in
is.
paying $250 if we get the same job, but same warranty and the same life at 152.
Well, how much did they compact on Steelman Marker, Glad Hill, and what was the other?
That was it.
It was just those two roads? I thought there was three.
Well, then 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they did Liberty Hall and Stoops.
Okay, so,
I wasn't here.
do you remember what was the compacted depth? Because those roads are pretty decent.
But they were total reclaims,
Oh, they were reclaimed.
both of them.
Yeah.
They were total reclaims.
It's a Glad Hill, but I don't know what the compacted depth was.
It was supposed to be 2.5 compacted, but
So the state guy says the roads existing are a good base and you could run over top of the 1.5 inches and have a hole for 20 years.
Yep. But if we want to total, like I said, our previous
Yeah.
road match, we wanted to do a total reclaim. And, the total reclaim, when he got a price for it, was $128,000. That was 2 years ago. Now the price is $208,000.
Yeah, just so you can see.
That's right. And as everybody keeps saying, everything keeps going up because of what? COVID. You got a kid. But anyhow, so yeah, that's where we're at with the road department. And of course, some of the other things, it's not really the road department, but it's maintenance. Of course, you guys see that the floor in the township has completely been redone. The base is done. All the painting, the walls are all been painted. This year we've done a lot of stuff. We got the central air conditioning done and central heat put in the building. So we've done some pretty significant upgrades. I think it's going to move us forward, save us a lot of money. A project that I'll be doing, proposing for 2022 is in this, what you want to call it, a kitchenette or hallway. I already think the shelving out and we're getting ready to, I've already started patching the walls. We're going to paint that area in there, and we're going to look at getting some cabinets, cupboards in there, and cleaning that all up.
You said we are not voting on this tonight. I've got questions down about this, where we're getting the money from there, but that's a lot of detail. That's part of the budget process.
Yeah, when we get to the budget, it should be on there.
I understand the technical part of it, but I don't understand, for example, is the Glad Hill Reserve in there or isn't it?
On my sheet, it's at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's 72,000. So it's part of the capital.
Where's the
reserve.
70?
Well, it's insane. This is the report.
My question is, what is the capital reserve in there?
See, maintain capital reserve, that's 79,000. 72, that is the Glad Hill.
Yeah.
Okay? So that means you can't touch this amount, and that's
We can't touch this
the
amount?
79, right?
Well,
And that's the part, you can't touch it.
forever in our lives?
No,
It's sitting there for that, I just work holding it, and I always hold 180 for
I understand that, but that, someday we're gonna have to face
Of course.
the opportunity to spend
Yeah,
the reserve we have for
That's
capital.
right.
Yeah.
So if we end up with 543,000, which includes all of our funds, and we still maintain, we would have 284,000 to spend on roads. And he's proposing,
Okay,
what are you
okay, I
proposing?
got it.
152
Yeah, so it's still way
instead
under.
of 284, but hey, you know, I can spend the whole $284.
And we still maintain the reserves we need.
I can fund all kinds of road projects, I mean, that's one.
I understand this now, so you can vote on it.
But it's just part of the budget.
Okay, then we're gonna move on to, Secretary Treasurer's report.
Okay, I just wanted to announce that we do have the e-cycle coming up on the 16th of October. It's the same spot. What is that, Richard? Is it 8 to noon? Do you remember when the e-cycle is?
8 to 12 noon, I believe.
Right, and so
Where?
What
is
day?
it? Ranch, is it on Ranch
Ranch
Trail?
Trail Park.
What's the date?
October, Saturday, October 16th.
Carroll Valley Range Trail
Yeah.
Park.
Yeah,
16.
I have 8 to 11.
it's 8 to 11. See, there you go,
There
Richard.
you go.
I thought you were reliable.
I am
You
reliable.
said
I'll be at
15th.
4.
October 16th, it's a Saturday from 8 to 11. Thank you, Jessica. And then I did want to just mention, I'm going to put on the agenda for November to discuss the Comcast contract, because I don't know where we are with that. And then also the trash is coming up for renewal, and I know they've been slacking a little on the meetings for that. And Laura Nieder, who was just here, she's in charge of that. She's just mentioned it to me on the way out the door, and she's going to send an update on where we are on the trash contract.
They didn't come today.
Nope.
And then also at 5:15, I received a phone call telling me that they weren't gonna make it today.
So
And
now.
they'll make it tomorrow.
It was a robocall.
Yeah.
You
I-
trashed me. No shit.
Yeah, I know, I see that.
I saw that.
I hope the raccoon doesn't get it before they get it, that's all.
Okay, anything else, Wendy?
No, that's all I have for
All right.
that.
Planning board, the planning commission.
Okay, the planning commission did meet Tuesday, September 21st. We had a quorum, and Brenda Geyer was here from KPI rather than Dominic. Mr. Barlow was also present. During the public comments, Mr. George Wilders came once again with questions about the proposed subdivision of his property so that he can build a house for his wife, which he promised her many years ago. And I pointed out to him, it was quite a lengthy discussion, which I think Mr. Barlow can attest to. And there's a number of, I believe, miscommunications and misunderstandings, because he is saying things that Wendy has said and told him, and things that I said and told him, which are not in either of our memory banks. He also at the meeting said that I referred to the memo or letter that the supervisors sent to him on May 10th of this year, saying that he should reappeal to the zoning hearing board, and he denied having received that letter. So I read it to him at the meeting. He did mention, and I couldn't remember who brought this up first. I checked with Rich Luquette, and he said that Mr. Wilders brought up that his deed said something about him not being able to subdivide, and Rich told him, if it's a deed issue, we have nothing to do with that. That's something you have to deal with a lawyer about. The lady communicated to Wendy about the deed, saying that I had said, somebody had said whatever, and I spoke to him when I was driving to Rehoboth. Bart was in the car with me as a witness, and he said that his wife had been looking for a deed. He didn't want to spend any more money for an attorney to go get a deed. I told him he could go to the county courthouse and get a deed. He didn't need an attorney to do that. His big issue is that he doesn't want to spend any more money for an attorney. I don't know, this could just go on. it needs to go to the zoning hearing board for reappeal, period. And
Yeah, and I think he's been instructed to do, if he wants to continue, that's what he needs to do. I believe he has contacted Wendy for an application.
He has the application,
And he has an application for that, and again, as you said, I talked to him too, and I did reiterate what you said. We never made a statement that anything was on his deed.
correct.
At all. So if he wants to get an attorney to research his deed, no, that's on him, it's not on the township.
Right, has nothing to do with us.
Okay.
Okay, we did have a minor subdivision, from the, what the heck is it called, Greenview Estates, which has been modified to one property in Liberty Township. But as we didn't have any information from the county, no county comments, and we didn't have any information from Washington County, we tabled that, and we also tabled the request for non-building waiver. Mr. Royer was not present at that meeting, as he usually is, so.
Now, we have that non-building waiver request in front of us.
No, that's
No,
for
that's
Brown.
Brown.
Judy's gonna get to that one.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, you say Greenview, sorry.
We did look at the minor subdivision plan for Brown, and there is a difference in the Adams County comments and the zoning officer's comments about the development area. We cannot supersede the zoning officer's comments, so we tabled this to get clarification from the zoning officer. We did, however, go ahead and approve the non-building waiver for the Brown subdivision. Mr. Scott, Ken Scott, who is the, sorry, engineer, what's he called? What's Mr. Scott?
Engineers, surveyor,
Surveyor.
Thank you.
beyond all boundaries?
Yes, right.
That's it.
He said that he was very upset because he said that he wanted to talk to the zoning officer earlier, and he was told that he had to put an application in, and that could be reviewed by the zoning officer. And so my thought is, maybe there could be some kind of fee scale that if.
Judy, there actually is a fee scale.
Okay,
He
so
was
he could have
instructed
gone.
that. It's on our fee schedule. He could have, if he wants to pay for the zoning officer to talk to
As a
him.
consult.
Yes, there's a consultant fee on our fee
Okay.
schedule for
Well,
that.
I know.
And I will make sure that everyone's aware of that in the future, and
Okay.
I believe that I did mention that to him.
Okay, so that probably slipped my mind too. That's it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may just make a comment about Mr. Wilder's.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think once you get into a situation with a gentleman like that, I think we told him what he needed to do. And I think if he starts asking, do we do a variance, a special exception? If he starts asking for legal advice, which I think that is, I think we just need to tell him, look, I know you don't wanna pay for an attorney, but you say you wanna build a house there, I'm assuming that's gonna cost you $200,000. You might wanna spend take $1,000 or $2,000 out of your budget and go get an attorney to make sure that this is done right. Because I'll be honest with you, off the top of my head, I'm not sure if there was an email, should he do a variance, a special exception? But I'm thinking maybe the thing he needs to do is request a reconsideration of the initial variance.
And that is actually what I told him. He will need to, if he wants to actually do it, he's gonna need a variance, but before he can even get a variance, he needs to have them reverse the actual, appeal the previous decision of the zoning hearing board.
Yeah, I'm just saying though, I think, what you said is fine, I think that once he starts getting into details, especially with someone who has maybe not been totally, I don't wanna say honest, maybe he doesn't have a very good memory of prior conversations.
He's not comprehending everything we're telling him.
Yeah, I think maybe you're just better off to say, look, get a lawyer, you need to get a lawyer, we've done as much as we can for you. Because again, it's not fair to you, you're traveling somewhere, he's calling you on the phone, it's outside of the purview of really what we should be doing.
And I said, I'm not ever gonna talk to him again unless somebody else is present. You know,
Yeah, I'm not even sure you need to talk to him again.
Right.
You know, if it's outside of a meeting.
Yeah.
And he's
Say-
been, like
yeah.
you said, he's been instructed if he wants to address this any problem with the township.
You'll have to
he
come
needs-
to a
He
meeting.
needs to fill out his application and take it to the zoning
Yes.
hearing board, because we're done.
Yeah, we're done.
We can't change, as I told him, we did not put the stipulation on your subdivision plan, the zoning hearing board did. The only one can overturn that is the zoning hearing board.
Right, right, and how he does that,
Don't talk to
go talk to your lawyer if you don't know how to do it.
Whatever it is.
That sounds like.
And also, we can't get involved in marital affairs. He made a promise to his
That's what he
wife.
said.
I'll agree with that.
Don't make promises you can't keep.
Yeah, because what's gonna happen is when he gets before the zoning hearing board, he's gonna say, well, so-and-so from the township told me this, so-and-so from the township told me that, and then we're all dragged into it.
Understood.
I will
That's not the
attend
same.
any hearing.
Yeah. Now, that's, thank you for mentioning, you make that comment.
Oh, you must tell me what, okay.
Pay all those back and do
So Judy,
He could take out 2 acres a year without having to do the payback, and I think that would meet that. Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna consider a motion,
Right,
for the planning board a non-building waiver from Mr. Brown's minor subdivision and final plan. Does anyone have an opportunity to look over that?
and Judy, as Judy just said, the planning commission and the SEO have already approved it.
Bob?
Yeah. I looked it over.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we give them the waiver.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we give them a waiver.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Consider subdivision development plans, okay, and now we have the land development plans that we're gonna review, for Brett Thomas.
Right, and that is just to accept it for
Right.
review.
Yes. I'll make a motion that we accept the, plans for review.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Did you do the Brown?
Yeah, we already did that,
Right.
we knew that.
Building, not building, yes, that's good.
All right, that's that, okay.
Consider appointment.
Consider appointment of planning commission member, Mr. Ridge is with us tonight. He was at our last planning board meeting, and he talked with the planning board. So I'm gonna make a motion that we appoint, Mr. Ridge to the planning board, to fulfill the vacant position. We had actually a guy, Adam Sanders, put in a letter of interest just on this past Monday. I haven't spoke with him, but, Mr. Ridge had already addressed the planning board, and we'd already made a decision to appoint him to the position. So I'm making a motion to appoint, Luther Ridge to the planning board.
Now, Luther, you understand there's gonna be a lot of emails, you'll need to attend meetings and return calls and stuff, right?
That's right.
Okay, because you'll be an active member. You need to be involved as best you can, I understand that, right?
He has a better memory of the acreage of lots that we talked about last week.
Do what?
He has a better memory about the acreage of lots than I do from when we talked. He
Well,
also has a building background.
Yes, and I saw that, and that's what I like too, so, yeah. But,
I'll get your book as soon as I get it back from the guy that designed.
Who's that?
I'll get your book. She has one for you, but I get another one too. It's supposed to come back. So anyhow, the motion's made. Do I have a second for the
I'll
motion?
second the motion.
Judy, did you talk to this guy, Luther?
He's right here.
Talk to him?
Yeah, he was at the last meeting.
I did. He attended the meeting. He asked good questions, and I talked to him after the meeting. And he seems very qualified. He seems very willing, and he seems available.
That's fine, thank you. Are we voting or are you seconding?
Already second.
You already second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Luther, I didn't recognize
Luther,
you. All right.
Jesse's gonna swear you in here, or I'm gonna swear you in, and she's gonna notarize it right after the meeting. Next thing here we got going on, draft budget review.
I wanna address that.
Go ahead, Wendy.
The month got by quickly and we never had our individual meetings, so we need to postpone that. And I
See you,
also,
Clem. See you, Mr. Thomas.
See you, Brett.
I will also need an additional meeting in November, and in order to get the budget passed in time in December, I am requesting that the board consider having an additional meeting in November, the week of November 8th. So 8, 9, 10, or 11, I would like to
November 8th.
8, 9, 10, or 11, whatever works for the three of you, that we can have another budget meeting after our monthly meeting.
But we have to,
Immediately following,
Yes, the week follows, we're gonna have our meeting, and at that meeting, we'll review the three columns and go over our different budgets. And then I'll make the corrections and adjustments, and then hopefully at the week of the 8th, we'll be able to propose a budget, which then needs to be advertised for 20 days, so that we can then adopt it in December.
and we have to advertise the meeting too.
Yes, we will, but that only takes 3 days, so you can get back to me with the date, you don't have to tell me right now. If you need to check your calendars, just let me know by the November 3rd meeting.
8th, 9th, 10th, you're saying?
8, yeah, what is that, 8, 9, 10, and 11?
8, 9, 10.
Well, nobody wants to do it, well, yeah, I dropped Friday, nobody wants to do it on Friday, so 8, 9, 10,
8, 9, 10, 11 for supervisory review of the budget.
It's a
The budget
public
Public
budget
meeting,
meeting.
budget review.
Yeah, it's a budget review meeting.
That's separate from our monthly meeting.
Yes, it will be the week following our monthly meeting.
Okay.
So if you can get back to me by the November 3rd meeting and let me know, that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're gonna go into new business. Any public comments on the new business? Okay, and later, we'll move on. Retroactive correction of the police, the policy and procedure manual. Got that somewhere. All right, Mr. Lisco was instructed in our meeting in May to make adjustments to the policy and procedures manuals. That manual I thought we voted on, but apparently the wording was not correct, so we had to retract it. As far as the changes that were made, it's on page 16 and page 17. 16, the accumulated hours, actuary hours of pay for vacation is 40 hours balance for the first year. Second 2 to 10 years is 40, or 4.26. So 10 years, it's 6.15. And then so let me go back up here to 0 to 1 is 3.8. And the other change, the other thing we didn't have in there, we did not vote on the 40 hours for PTO to be carried over. So that was
The limit.
you limit that. And then on page 17, Mr. Lisco, I was talking with him, he advised that we drop a paragraph, which now the new paragraph reads, Liberty Township will grant paid holiday time off to full-time regular employees and those part-time employees who have averaged a minimum of 14 hours per week over the 3 months preceding the holiday. If non-exempt employee must work on a recognized holiday, 2 times their straight time rate for the hours worked on the holiday will be paid in light of the holiday. Part-time off paid time off for holiday will not be counted as hours worked for the purpose of determining overtime. That was a change. It was dropped in there that it was prorated. It was saying that it was prorated on the part-timers, but as I said to Mr. Lisco, if we base this on a 35-hour week, that's not going to be right. If we have a full-time, say we get a full-time police officer coming, if we have to hire another full-time police officer with 8-hour shifts, they're going to be paid 8 hours. And also your part-timers, right now, if you work 6 hours, then you're prorated 6, but if you work in the summertime, you're working 8 hours, you're not getting, it's not average out. I've been here since like 2014, and we've always paid 8 hours for holiday pay, period. It wasn't prorated, nothing, it was always paid straight out as 8 hours. So that's why we dropped page 17, we dropped that prorated out and made it straight across. If you work your 14 hours, you get 8 hours of paid holiday. That's the only benefit that our part-timers even get, if they get the hours. If you don't get the hours, they're gonna get that. So, Mr. President, do we have to make a motion again?
Well, here's what, so there's no ambiguity. The motion should be that you're adopting this manual here that's in front of you. It's issued October 3rd, 2017, revised April 16, 2019, revised again July 26, 2021. You're adopting that manual with the new pages 16 and 17, retroactive to July 6, 2021.
Okay.
That's the motion. And if you make that motion, it needs to be understood that even if there's a change in this manual that wasn't discussed tonight or wasn't discussed previously, this is the manual you're adopting
Got it.
Okay.
with these 2 additional pages to be replaced, 16, 17.
Understood.
So you got that down, Wendy?
Yes.
Do I gotta repeat all that?
Mm-hmm.
No.
No. Is that your motion?
You can say,
So what you just
so
said.
moved as stated pursuant to Mr. by Mr.
So moved as proceeded stated by Mr. Lister. Do I have a second?
So moved, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Jesus. Place that right there. All right, our next thing is going to be our updated fee schedule. We have the updated fee schedule. I did talk to Clint. He reviewed this prior to our meeting. Just want to make sure that he thought these numbers were in line. He feels they are.
Okay, do we want to strike off the permit fee for now, the camping permit, until we figure that out or not?
The camping permit, I don't believe we can have a fee until we actually have
Exactly.
a
So we'll leave the non-compliance application fee on and strike the camping and campground permits until
Yes.
we resolve those issues.
yes.
Okay,
And then, so the only thing we're gonna vote on tonight is the $90 fee for
the
the
addition of the
non-compliance
non-compliance
application.
application fee, okay.
And make a motion that we adopt that.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Alright, farm, fire tax, insurance distribution, that's gonna be straightforward, simple, guys. The fire, we've received this money, we have to pay it back out, we can't hold it. In previous times past, what we've done is split this money 50-50 between the 2 fire companies. My recommendation is we do the same again this year.
Good idea.
So I'm making a motion that we split the fire relief money we got, and give it 50-50 to Fountain Dale and Fairfield Fire Departments.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now, the 2021 pension plan, MMO distribution. The police plan is a 0. It's zeroed out, so we don't have to take any action on that. Wendy, can you tell the board about the other part of the pension plan?
Yes, these are the MMOs that we approve every year. Last year you approved this MMO, and now we receive the money from the state. And now, once we get the money, we only have a certain amount of time, just like the foreign fire tax, to pay it out. So we have to estimate what the salary will be to the end of the year. And then in December, adjustments have to be made when the actual salary comes in.
Okay, you need a motion?
I do need a motion to pay it out.
Okay. Make a motion, we pay out our pension plan, MMO distribution. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, replace the quote for fuel pump meter replacement. I had Arrow come out as Sherry indicated, and also too. Our meters are getting to, they're so old, they're fuel fat boys. They're over 20 years old. But anyhow, you can't hardly read the numbers when they turn over, when we put in fuel in. So I had Arrow come out. Those things are obsolete. You can't get them anymore. They are pretty sure that they can replace them with these things called Fieldlight 807C meters. The meters are $194.95 a piece. They got labor in there at $90 per meter. Bobby had originally said about us maybe doing this. We can't. These things are certified gas meters. They have to be done by certified technicians. So we don't have an option. If we want to replace them, we have to pay the certified technician.
They're charging $90 a meter to put on?
That's what they're doing. Labor, 3 hours labor, $90. No, it's 3 hours
Oh,
labor.
okay, 3 hours later.
The total price is $854.85.
Who is this making?
It's Arrow Energy. It's the people supply that give us our stuff. So like I said, I contacted them, they came out, this is a 30-day proposal. Like I said, we gotta do something, we can't read the meters.
Well, they don't turn, like the
Well,
one
yeah,
gas
that's
pump doesn't
exactly
turn
right.
sometimes.
Yeah, they don't turn right, sometimes they don't even turn at all. And if they do turn, you can't even see the numbers because the numbers are sunburnt or bleached or whatever, you can't see
The
them.
meter's separate from the pump.
It is, yeah.
Right.
Because I was afraid we was going to have to replace the whole thing. Tim from Arrow, he came out and looked and he said, I'm pretty sure I can retrofit these fuel rights to that. I went, that'd be cheaper than replacing the pump.
I don't know why you wouldn't be able to, they're separate, pipes separate.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something. Since
Yeah.
the sun hits them all afternoon long, directly on those meters, do they have a bonnet or a cover?
That's a good question. I don't know.
It might be an accessory.
Maybe we can get someone to fabricate a umbrella.
Yeah. Or a canopy.
A canopy or something. But we'll look into that.
Yeah, we might do something, keep the sun off of them, it just burns in there for all.
Yeah, it burns a lot. So I'm gonna make a motion that we go forward, and accept the proposal for $854.85 and have them come out and start this project.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Do you have it in your budget?
We do now.
No, that wasn't the answer I was looking for.
Hey, do we have in our capital, I don't need my budget. That's a capital project budget. We have that money in general fund, right?
How much is the total?
$854.
Yeah.
How much we have in there, Wendy?
Well, you have it right in front of you in your treasurer's report.
Yeah, but my treasurer's report's down here somewhere.
Oh, well, I'll have to look at the same thing.
That's
I'll
all
keep it all in my
right.
brain.
We're fine, thank you.
It's under $1,000, so it's not a capital expense.
That's true. Okay,
Wait a minute,
go ahead.
we all got a vote.
We did.
Yeah, no, I didn't vote.
Oh.
I asked
Oh,
you a question.
that's right.
Thank you.
Jack-
All in
Jack-
favor?
Aye.
Okay. It's 9:13.
Yes, come on, quit dealing with it.
Office of Aging requests for a donation. They sent a letter out to the township. They were telling us, in our township alone, that they provided about $14,025.81 worth of service to 10 of our residents. Wow, man, that's
I think I asked, Mr. Jackson, did I ask you to talk to them?
Yes, you did, and I haven't done it yet.
Okay, so we can table that. Mr. Jackson's still working on it.
Same on the next one.
Okay, we'll table it, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, the next one is Adams County Historical Society.
Also, Mr. Jackson.
Same thing, same
Okay,
answer.
we'll do the.
Table that one too. Good,
And
good.
look, PSATS wants us to vote for 2 people for 2 positions for 2 different things. So I don't know how difficult this vote's gonna be for you.
It's not very difficult for me because I was waiting for the vote.
I don't know how you can have
An election.
an election. I mean, with two people and we got.
That's right.
You got 2 openings and 2 people.
That's right. Actually, it seems to be 4 openings and the same 2 people for both.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion that we
Vote for all.
we vote for both of the candidates running for the 2 positions. One is Clyde Champ Holman,
Yeah.
and the other one is E. Christopher, y'all can see that, Ambroso. Ambrosco. I make a motion that we give them our go-aheads.
Okay, great. Second?
Do I have a second?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
I make a motion for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. One other thing, guys, I want to give you this before I already did the adjournment, sorry. But anyhow, here's a letter that we drafted up. Sherry had already scheduled for 2022 a vacation trip for, I forgot what it was, she could tell you what it's at. But anyhow, she was saving her vacation for that trip. So this is just a letter saying that prior to the changes in our 40-hour policy, that she'll be able to still take her vacation in 2022.
For me, or just for me to look at?
That's yours.
Oh, thank you.
Where's yours? How did I get all these copies?
Because Jessica gave them to you so that you can hand them out when you talked about it.
Okay. I got extra copies if you ever need.
Oh, I think it's,
Do you have one?
Well, it's not a finished letter yet, so I thought you were gonna vote on it. If it's okay.
Well, guys, yeah. Does anybody have a chance to read that, look at that?
Yes.
I sent it out
Yeah.
previously a few weeks ago.
Okay. So I have a motion to approve the letter.
I make a motion that we approve the letter.
Second,
Yes.
all in favor? Aye.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to adjourn again? Yeah.
Adjourned.
Second.
I'm curious to hear where she's going.
Oh, yeah, where you going?
Out of the country, I think.
She is, she's leaving the country.
Wait,
No, now I'm even more curious, out of the country.
she's going to Mars. I think she's getting on SpaceX.
She's going on. She's going on with William Shatner.
Oh, but she wouldn't be working
I
here.
want postcards.
If she could afford to go to Mars, what is that like? What does he charge?
Just a couple million.
Oh, to go in space.
Yeah, 250,000.
250 million.
Yeah, 250,000 for 15 minutes.
Where are you going?
Well, if the climate changes, I'm going to Australia. If the climate of things in the world today doesn't change, I may not go.
Yeah. Maybe you need that.
Because luckily I bought
You're not
full
gonna take
cancellation
it.
trip insurance.
So they don't have Jim.
So when you say climate, you mean political climate or weather climate?
Both, not weather, but political climate.
All of the above.
Political climate and COVID restrictions.